All right, so we'll talk about the turnout rate in Kentucky. So you just had this, very controversial election between Matt Bevin and Andy Beshear and John Hicks. There's a libertarian in there, and his point total beat the spread, even though he only got 1 or 2% or so. So the turnout rate is 42%, and all the headlines are saying, "Watch out, Mitch! Watch out, Republicans!" Because because this higher turnout rate means there's going to be more Democrats elected. Even though it is a higher turnout rate than what it was, 4 years ago, it's still abysmal. It was 42%. 42%. So that's 2 out of 5. 2 out of 5 Kentuckians voted. 3 out of 5 Kentuckians said, "Fuck this democracy. Fuck this system. We're not going to participate. We're not doing this shit." There's, either no choices or their vote doesn't matter. They went through public education, so they don't know that they're supposed to at least vote. Because if you're not voting, then you're not, writing letters to the editor, writing letters to your congressman. You're not reading the bills. You're not reading the laws. I don't even know if you're a lawful person. Do you even know the Constitution? In order to understand the legal framework of America, you need to know the 3 branches of government. You need to know the Constitution. So if you're not voting, like 3 out of 5 Kentuckians, then I doubt you are doing anything political whatsoever. And so 42% is abysmal because it's not the majority. It's not the majority. Not only is there not the majority of the people not voting, but the majority of the people that did vote didn't pick anybody. Andy Beshear got 49%, and then Matt Bevin got 48%. So that means nobody got the majority. Even out of the 42%, neither one of them got the majority. But let's say Andy Beshear got the lion's share, so what, he got 22%? That's not a mandate. That's a mandate from 22% of the population of Kentucky. 3.5 million Kentuckians are registered to vote. 1.4 million voted. So that means 2 million Kentuckians, the overwhelming lion's share, the overwhelming group of people, the majority of the Kentucky people says, fuck democracy, fuck voting, fuck doing anything political whatsoever. And they have disenfranchised themselves, or they've been disenfranchised for other reasons. So the 42%, the headlines are saying, look how, much higher the turnout rate is. And it's actually a lot lower. It's a lot lower. It's 42%. It's lower than the majority. You need 50% plus 1 in order to have, to win in the electorate. So the 49% is not enough. And the 42% says that there's no democratic legitimacy. The reason why I mention this, and this is very important, because if you go to Puerto Rico, if you go to any of these other countries, they have boycotts of the elections, and they say that the elections are illegitimate, and with the hopes of, invalidating the elections or getting another, fair elections actually up and running. And when most of the people in Puerto Rico voted to become a state of America, the people said that it wasn't a fair vote because the opposition boycotted it, so therefore they have to redo the election. So we seem to hold other countries to a higher standard of democracy than we hold ourselves. And so 42% is abysmal. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. It's not democracy. We're not even close. What we're going to be afraid of tyranny of the majority. We're going to be afraid of tyranny of the majority. Well, the majority are staying home. So you're not going to be tyrannized. If anything, you should be worried about the complacency of the majority. The complacency. If everybody is paying attention, I mean, my God, if people were actually paying attention to what was going on, more people paying attention means more eyes are looking on the subject, more, it would just be less corruption. It would be a better system. Democracy would actually function. It would actually work. But they went to totalitarian public schools, and totalitarian public schools says that you must obey your dictator and not have solidarity with your fellow classmates. So even though school boards are democratically elected, the public education system actually is very much a hierarchical, top-down, totalitarian, fascist system, authoritarian system, to where there's only one person in control, one person who has all the power, and then everybody else is just a bunch of sheep. And when the dictator, humiliates one of the classmates, then it's up to the sheep to speak up and say, hey, teacher, thank you for, yelling at little Johnny over there. Thank you for humiliating, and being a dick to little Sally. And they'll actually, jump on the bandwagon or say nothing, right? They'll say nothing. And if you choose neutrality in situations of injustice, then you've chosen the side of the oppressor. So 42% is abysmal. That's not a turnout rate that's, it's higher than 2015. 2015 it was 31%, so it's increased 11%. That does mean there's going to be more, new voters, but that doesn't mean that it's going to translate to any other elections. And then the last thing I want to say is the primary. So this is Kentucky's governor's election. This is the chief executive. This is the president of the state. So the president of Kentucky, 3 out of 5 Kentuckians says, we don't give a shit who leads our state. 3 out of 5 Kentuckians, we don't give a shit about our democracy. We don't care about our leadership. We don't care where this government, where it steers us. If it steers us wrong, steers us right. In Kentucky's defense, ranked choice voting would make democracy fair. It's not a fair election because it's winner take all and it's plurality. So the libertarians and the Greens and the independents don't actually stand any chance whatsoever. If you had a fair election, people say they don't have a chance, and then they have this, shitty, cheating election to where they don't have a chance. This is America. Anything is possible. If you could dream it, you could do it. And so 42% is abysmal, but then Colorado usually has really great turnout rate, but they only had 1 million people show up to their elections too. So, compare and contrast, Kentucky's got a shitty democracy, but I guess it's cool because, everybody's got a shitty democracy, so, who gives a fuck? 42% is that's not enough. 3 out of 5 Kentuckians, if you heard that, they always have those dentist commercials, the toothpaste, the 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest. And why did they have those studies? That's definitely, they're cheating. Why did they pick that one doctor that said no, just to make it look like it's fair? But at least they said 4 out of 5, right? 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest. Well, if they said, 2 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest, 2 out of 5, dentists recommend Crest, and then one of those 5, recommends Crest with extra whitening, then that's the king. That's who everybody wants. That's the top dog. That's going to be governor. I don't want Crest extra whitening to be governor. I want, 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 Kentuckians says that this is our, our leader. And at the very least, okay, say you only get 42% turnout again, which is better than the primaries, which the primaries in May and the primary in 2015 was only 19%, meaning 4 out of 5 Kentuckians did not approve of Kentucky's democracy or participating in Kentucky's democracy. There's also very few initiatives. Kentucky needs more initiatives. So they actually are voting on the issues. That's a way to bypass the legislature and the governor and just give it to the people. In fact, Kentucky had voted for a victim's Bill of Rights, and then the judicial branch went ahead and killed it. So the judicial branch is very much in the business of destroying democracy. Kentucky's got a long history of corruption, vote-buying scandals, and diebold machines can be hacked into in 2 minutes. And, the damn Russians, I don't know if they meddled in Kentucky's elections either. So in Kentucky's defense, they don't have ranked choice voting. Other democracies in America are just as shitty, but that's at the very least, with ranked choice voting, you would get a majority victor. So right now, Andy Beshear is winning because of 49%, 48%. If ranked choice voting was enacted, then the libertarian votes would be subtracted, and then their second choice, it would go to their second choice. So we would find out if the libertarian actually took away from Bevins or Beshear's, or maybe, they were just their own people, and they just voted, they would have only voted for John Hicks and nobody else. So ranked choice voting ends the spoiler effect. Ranked choice voting also gives an independent a chance. So it gives, the independent a chance. Diverger's law is essentially because of majority take all, pluralities, sort of systems. You always have 2 main parties that go against each other, and then the third parties don't have much of a chance. So because of Diverger's law, it's not a fair election. Ranked choice voting would make it fair. And what would have happened in Kentucky's election is John Hicks' votes would have been redistributed. He was last place. Instead of being a spoiler, his votes would have been redistributed. And if it would have gone to Bevin, then Bevin would have won. If it would have gone to Beshear, then Beshear would have won. But without ranked choice voting, we'll never know. We'll never know. So ranked choice voting would have made this election fair, and clearly it swayed the election. So congratulations to John Hicks. And I'm happy that the Democrats beat the Republican. Andy Beshear is left of center. He was actually the 3rd most progressive in the primaries, the 3rd most progressive. Adam Edelin and Jeff Young were more liberal and more progressive, more to the left. of Andy Beshear on a whole host of issues. Andy Beshear is opposed to child abuse. He's for medical marijuana. He's for casino gaming. He's pro-choice, so he's for abortion. There's only one abortion clinic open in Kentucky, and that's in Louisville. And so Matt Bevin, 5,000 votes, they're going to try to contest it, try to steal this election, but I think they should just have another election. Just redo it. Have another election. Because Andy Beshear beat the shit out of Matt Bevin in the second election. So if you let the legislature do it, or if you go to the judicial branch, they very well could steal it, so it would be smart for Andy Beshear. Andy Beshear is doing all the right things. It would be smart for Andy to file a federal lawsuit against Kentucky in the legislature for doing, shenanigans, trying to steal the damn election. When it was William Justice Goebel, all the Republicans come to the Frankfurt with guns saying, don't steal our election. You can't steal our election. And they stopped Goebel from, they didn't stop him, actually. Well, they stopped his governorship, but he got in for 3 days, and then it went to his lieutenant governorship. So it used to matter if they were stealing the election. That Victims' Bill of Rights is bullshit. So the people of Kentucky said, yes, we need a Victims' Bill of Rights, and of course the criminals have all these, the accused have all these rights in Kentucky and U.S. Constitution, but the victims, they don't have any rights. No, we need to give a shit about the victims first. They need to have rights first, and then the criminals. So the people's will, when it came, that was 2018. So when the people of Kentucky passed the Victims' Bill of Rights, the judicial branch went ahead and killed it. And so, this is just about the turnout rate. So 42% is abysmal, doesn't have democratic legitimacy. A functioning democracy has at least 50% plus one of the people show up, and then a functioning democracy has 50% plus one of the electorate. Whoever the electorate votes for, that's who wins. Ranked choice voting would have guaranteed a majority winner. Ends the spoiler effect, would have made the election fair for everybody, including independents. But because Republicans and Democrats are cheaters and they're assholes, they won't institute ranked choice voting because New York City has done it, Maine has done it. It's the only fair way to go. It's the way forward. And it also makes a better conversation, makes it more civil. So instead of insulting John Hicks being a libertarian and a spoiler, now you could actually talk about who his second choice. Okay, you like John Hicks, but who would you have picked for your number 2 candidate? And again, we'll never find out who that would have been. But so congratulations to Kentucky, Andy Beshear. You made national headlines. A bloody red state, very bloody red state, has thrown out their own version of Donald Trump. Matt Bevin was a precursor to Donald Trump. Matt Bevin got elected, then Donald got elected. So their styles, their personalities, a lot of their policies, they are, eye to eye. They are nearly identical. They're both assholes. And I heard that's, it's bad to be a liberal in Kentucky. So, you have Republicans everywhere, over here, over there, everywhere. But ultimately, when it comes down to being a liberal, you're not allowed to be a liberal. But what happened with Matt Bevin, apparently in Kentucky, it's worse to be an asshole. So are you a liberal? Okay, but you're an asshole. So you're a liberal and you're an asshole. Oh, come on over here, liberal. Get out of here, you asshole. So that's a good thing. Apparently Kentuckians don't give a flying fuck about their assholes. So fuck the assholes, right? Fuck the assholes. That's a very good decision. And, being liberal just means you got a heart. And we need balance anyway, so we need to care about, we need to make smart decisions, but we also need to make heartfelt decisions. We need to care about the individual. We need to care about the community. So you need a balance. You need to be liberal on some things and conservative on some things. If you're just strictly conservative, then you're just a heartless piece of shit. And, that's no good for anybody now, is it? Teachers. He was also, Andy Beshear was in favor of the teachers, opposed to child abuse, for casinos, for medical marijuana, abortion. He's pro-abortion. So those are the policies. He's left of center. He was the third most progressive, but he's also very young. And so Baby Beshear might actually surprise the hell out of all of us and be one of the most progressive governors we've ever had. So, yeah, 42%, though, that's not a democratic legitimacy. That's nothing to really celebrate. When you get 50% plus one of the people voting, and then you get 50% plus one of those people who voted to go to one candidate, then you have democratic legitimacy. Until you have those things, Australia has 95% turnout rate. Australia, 95% turnout rate. So everybody shows up in Australia. They give a fuck about their democracy. For whatever reason, Kentuckians either are too stupid to go vote, and that means that they don't matter. If you don't vote, you don't matter. Or perhaps they have legitimate reasons. They can't drive to it. It's too far. They, feel like their vote won't count. They don't have any choices. But, all those things can be remedied. If you don't feel like you have any choices, you can run yourself. But if you're not voting, I bet you're not going to run for office either. So, you can hate the whole system, but if you're not going to, do anything about it, then who gives a fuck what you think? Yeah, so 42%, that's nothing to brag about. That's abysmal. It's under the majority, and there's no democratic legitimacy with 42%. So